Hello, and welcome to another episode of Out of Office with Liam. I'm Lena Sully, your host and office supplies industry analyst at the NPD Group. The Out of Office series from NPD takes us out of the world of office supplies and into a new space or industry in order to explore and take advantage of ideas or trends that are adjacent and complementary to our industry and consumer. Mike Crosby is back to talk to us about how technology and health and wellness intersect. And I'm also very pleased to welcome for the very first time, Joe Durachowski from our home business to tell us about what's happening within the health and wellness space as well. Mike, it's great to have you back. And Joe, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks, Lean. Appreciate being here. Thank you.
Yeah, agree, Lean. Thanks for the opportunity.
Love to have you both. So, Joe, I've heard you several times speaking about how the consumer is prioritizing aspects of health and wellness in terms of healthy home, healthy body, healthy mind. Do you believe this trend is beginning to slow? How has it impacted the home industry? And how can we think about its trajectory in the future?
Well, I think the way that I look at this, we are in the boost phase of any long-term trend. It has been a driver of the home industry for a little bit. Let me explain what I'm thinking about. Most trends last about a generation, which is roughly 15 years, 15 to 20 some years. And in the late 70s, all the way up to the early part of the 90s, it really was an era of health and wellness. Marathon started at that time, brands like Healthy Choice, other low fat, low sugar foods, all that stuff came out. And then in the 90s, we started seeing fast food skyrocket. We saw things, remember the movie Wall Street, Gordon Gekko's famous line of greed is good, it's about indulgence and stuff. And that lasted till 2008 and 9 when the recession hit. And at that time, what ended up happening is the younger generation, who used to be the big heavy restaurant consumers, started to eat at home. So unlike any other generation, the gap between their attitude and behavior on health and wellness was much closer together than any other generation. Add to it the aging population and the growth of first-time moms. So the demographics really brought health and wellness to light in 2008 and 9. So if you went with a 15-year trend, it should be around 2000, early part of 2000, mid 2000s. Well, obviously with what's happened here recently, we certainly got a boost that should extend it well into the next decade. And what's happened is interesting during this latest phase. It used to always be about health and wellness was eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, exercise more, and eat more homemade meals. Well, what happened since 2008 is we really expanded the definition to include things like sleep. So we saw a lot of our bedding take off, especially those things related to helping you sleep longer. We saw mindfulness, so diffusers and all those things start to take off. We saw massaging appliances take off. So a lot of the definition of health and wellness really expanded. And now you introduce the virus. So it's really expanded. So we've seen since this time things like air purifiers and other things to help manage, keeping the houses clean, as well as just trying to manage viruses really take off. So it's been a fascinating journey. And I think the future holds a few things to help add some wind to it. One, the advancements of smart has really taken off. I used to have a smart scale, and the second my watch updated itself, everything became obsolete. Well, now you've got things like Teslas and Pelotons and things that are automatically updating and making it much easier for things to advance to the next stage. The second part is we became more home-centric as well as more organized. And the reason why this is important is if you really think about what creates change, I always like to use dieting as an example. I would ask people, what's the number one month for dieting? They'd always say January, but the answer really is March and June. But the insight that is given there is something all of us should be thinking about, especially in your industry, is January has the buzz, March creates urgency because bikini season, and June has exercise and warmer weather, those things that enable the change to happen. Well, I would think for your industry, really what you're going to be able to help a lot out with is helping to create the buzz through different partnerships and helping enable this change, because there's some organization that's needed to make this happen. And if you can help out with the urgency, that plays well too.
I love it. I think, we're seeing a lot of similar trends within office supplies. So the organization, you're hitting on a key trend for us. This is something consumers are trying to do within their home, but then also within their home office. We track work from home and hybrid worker behavior within our Future of Office Supplies reports. And in that, we ask consumers around their need and desire to enhance or improve their home office environment. And we've seen that as a growth area. I also think the idea of fitness that you brought up, very, very important for us. We're still seeing growth in some of our journal and notebook items, especially those related to, let's say, fitness or mindfulness tracking. So that's been another area of growth for us. So very interesting. I also thought your comments around the compatibility and alignment of the tech world with the consumer products that we're purchasing. This is one of the reasons I wanted to have Mike on with us today too. I just wanted to really understand how technology is being integrated into the broader realm of health and wellness. So Mike, anything that you can sort of tell us about what the trends are there that you're seeing and how consumers are, interacting with technology in this space of health and wellness.
Sure. And it's a great question. A couple things. I think one, certainly the importance and the relevance of health and wellness has never been more visible than it is right now during the pandemic and even potentially post-pandemic. And it's not just physical, but it's also mental and emotional. So again, it's much more comprehensive than I think Joe's comments that the early stages was, eat more vegetables and get some exercise. So it's much more sophisticated, and that's really where technology really lends itself to really reduce what I'll call the friction, right? We want to limit the friction to make it easier, not only for individuals to leverage technology, be able to track and monitor different aspects of what is included in health and wellness, but also it's very big business. And I think with the different things that are going on now from a manufacturing perspective, technology, they see this ability to bring these frictionless solutions to apply into healthcare, to apply into just personal care again, even how corporations are using a lot of these technologies in alignment with insurance companies to maintain different levels of fitness and health and wellness that ultimately is a cost savings and it's a benefit to the employee. It's also a benefit to the employer. So you're going to see a lot more Now, a lot of the things which are interesting, and just to comment on this, if you think back with telehealth or IoT or wellness applications, or even VR and AR. All of these are all emerging technologies, but they're not brand new. And really what really accelerated this to just a hyper speed really was the pandemic. And I think now you've got a general level of understanding and knowledge by the community, and a much, I think, more willing to accept how I can leverage these technology tools and resources to improve my life. And companies are seeing that people are wanting that. So clearly that's also driving the expansion of product portfolios and building more products that align to this. So it's still in early stages, but we really got some good momentum behind us.
Yes, I think a lot of these points that you're bringing up are they're very interesting in terms of how consumers are interweaving them into their daily life, and then especially how they're being used within the overall workforce and corporations. One of the trends in office supplies we've seen is a growth in the share mix of the older demographic, so 55 plus. We also have heard, a lot about the increase in retirees. So I think, that older generation and the older demographic also provides us a pretty interesting opportunity around this health and wellness. How are they spending their free time? Can they take advantage of the tech that's being integrated into some of these day-to-day activities that they're doing? And then where can office supplies play a role in that? How do we target this demographic and also weave in some of the tactile aspects of health and wellness and mindfulness? So I think a lot of that is, it has a lot of complementary trends there.
Totally. And I think you've heard that example before, right? What was old is now new again. So you saw the basic functionality of maybe journaling as, well, was the right thing to do, as a way I could capture my thoughts or my thinking or whatever. But now I think it's a much more expanded use of of how this provides all kinds of different wellness in concert with these other technologies. So you may have something that's maybe traditional that was used in a completely different way, but now it really complements. And that's the point. As long as we can continue to find things that aren't replacing necessarily, but complementing, I think you're going to see that good balance. The other point I'd raise is that my generation, even, right, where I think you tended to be less balanced. It was very much about what you were able to do at the office, at work, career driven, a lot of different things. And I think you look at some of the younger generations now, I think they have a much better sense of balance and what they're looking for and really what they need and what they're not willing to compromise. So, I think that the timing is right for old and new combined. I think it's a nice compliment all the way around.
One thing I think that also kind of plays off of what you said, I think is an interesting marketing opportunity, is you think about that 55 plus generation, and you think about their kids at that time, like the number of conversations they had about health and wellness 30 years ago was limited. Very few, or if anything, it was probably the parents saying something about the kids of something they're managing with right now. But in today's society, it's an organic conversation that is both genuine interest by both groups. So the ability to have one generation influence the other and the other generation to be a free flow opportunity for marketing, to have each one kind of influence each other, is just a fantastic marketing opportunity for us.
On that point too, and I think there's less of a stigma attached to, being the tough silent type where I can just manage all of these things. And I think in general, the public is much more willing and caring and supportive of these types of things that really fold well within, again, the balance of traditional and technology as to part of this, how I live my life and also how I work, how I do everything.
Yeah, another aspect of this that we could talk about another time is the collaboration of it. I love what you brought up around the workplace collaboration. I'm sure this is done on a consumer basis, but are there ways that we can further enable that? So fitness, health, and wellness from a collaborative perspective among family members, among friends that live in different places. There's even just different cohorts of people participating in this together and encouraging each other. So I think this is very, very interesting stuff. I think we had a really nice conversation from both of you. I want to thank you both for providing your thoughts and your input. They're invaluable to our industry and myself as well. I always learn from talking to you both. So I just want to thank you for joining.
Thanks, Liam. Appreciate it. It was great.
I appreciate the opportunity, and thanks to all the folks listening.
Yes, thank you for everyone that's listening today. And if you have any questions or comments about what you heard from either myself, Joe, or Mike, you can reach out to us at the NPD group. Thank you so much, and goodbye.